A very good morning to you. Welcome to Just Africa on Souq News Television, your frontline current affairs program in business, economy, and development. We explore bold ideas, transformative strategies, and the people reshaping the African continent. Today, we turn our spotlight on a compelling topic: stronger currencies, stronger nations. What Africa can learn from Ghana's economic moves. Across the continent, weak currencies have long been a source of vulnerability, eroding the purchasing power, inflating debt, and undermining investor confidence. But in the first half of 2025, Ghana has emerged with a surprising story. The Ghanaian cedi has shown remarkable resilience, recording one of the best performing African currencies against the United States dollar as Ghana pushes forward with structural reforms and enhanced fiscal discipline. So, in this conversation, we will be looking at Ghana as a country, and we'll be making comparisons with Nigeria, with other African countries, and see what has Ghana done differently, that it seemed to be its cedis, its currency is one of the performing in the continent of Africa. The Tunisia dirham is there, the Libyan dirham is there, the Egyptian pound is there, and the Nigerian naira is there. But as usual, Just Africa, I'm not the only one doing the show this morning. It's Friday. Olumide, good morning to you.
Good morning, Priye. Thank God it's Friday. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
I'm Olumide Sokoya. So glad to have you on Just Africa.
Yes. So we are looking at the Ghanaian cedi today, and I have lots of questions for our guests. What could be that push? What could be the catalyst? And what is actually working around the Ghanaian economy that could make it, place it at the stage, at the pedestal where it currently is. As for Nigeria, we have our own troubles, with its own advantage and disadvantage, and what is responsible. Because most of the time when we talk about Nigerian economy, growing, people, attribute it to the current economic reforms by the current administration.
Yes.
So, Mr. John Mahama, what does he seem to be doing differently? Because if we go to William Ruto's Kenya and how the shillings is performing, it should be somewhere maybe 5th or 6th or maybe even 7th when we look at it in the continent of Africa. And what are they doing differently? Because currently as we speak, there seems to be a mild protest going on in Kenya. They've had one last year, and sometime in the beginning of this year they had another. So what seems to be going on in the economic space? What is Ghana doing differently? And I've seen responses on what Ghana is doing differently, and I'm like, it's not a magic wand, but why does it seem to place the city at that pedestal where it currently is now is something I would like to know.
Well, one of the things I like about Ghana is how they diversify their economy. At least I've been to Ghana, though it was short, but I noticed that they produce not just what they export, but they also produce it. For instance, cocoa, they export it. They also produce chocolate in Ghana. And one of the policies that I think helped them was gold for oil, using their own gold to pay for oil import. Okay. So to reduce the pressure of the dollar. That was one of the yes, there was a bailout they had, I think, in 2023, about $3 billion bailout from the International Monetary Fund. They also raised interest rate to kind of like cushion inflation. They raised it several times. They did a whole lot of things, and they diversified. They were producing, they were doing this, and it really helped them stabilize their currency. So I think there are a lot of things we can actually learn from them. Number one is diversifying. Yes, Nigeria is also diversifying. We are not, now we are reducing the pressure on oil export. We are trying to, export other things. So, Nigeria is also growing, but, there are a whole lot of things we can learn. And of course, when the guest comes on, I would really like to know a whole lot more.
Okay, so whilst we were talking, I was running my mind around, and one aspect that my mind went to is that when I was reading a literature about making comparison between Ghana and Nigeria. Someone was actually painting a picture, and he said that when you something that spoke very well for the Ghanaians was that when you go to the Tema Airport is one of, if not the biggest airport in Ghana, and the way the environment is structured, it is structured very, very business-like. Of course, all airports are structured business-like, including the Murtala Mohammed International Airport. But there was like, okay, if you want to make a difference between that, Murtala Mohammed International Airport and the Tema Airport in Ghana, is that you see there's high level of regulation. If you don't have a business to do in the airport, you don't come in there. You're not seen looking around, unlike what you see in the Murtala Mohammed International Airport.
You know, when I give my experience about Ghana, one of the things I always talk about is their airport. When we got to Ghana Airport, I was wondering, is this an airport?
Okay.
You know, I'm used to going to
a bustling
airport with crowd. This one is coming to meet you. Boy, what do you want to do? Where are you going? But no, it was peaceful. First of all, they have free Wi-Fi. Thanks to Ghana.
Free Wi-Fi?
Yes, free Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Yes. So immediately you enter Ghana. I think they understand that, of course, you are coming from another country. Of course, your network provider might not be able to operate in their own country. So there's free Wi-Fi for you to do. Because actually, when we go to Ghana, we're trying to connect with the person who was supposed to pick us. So with their Wi-Fi, we were able to call them on WhatsApp. So that was it. And it is orderly.
Okay.
It is orderly. When we got to the immigration officer, he was very nice. Now, typical me, I was thinking, he would say anything for us, this, that. But he just, what are you guys doing in Ghana? Welcome to Ghana. He was very friendly and immediately handed my passport back to me, and that was it. Okay. And I got my passport, and I was looking at him like,
okay, what next?
It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's just like you said, if you have no business in the airport, you will not be found lurking there.
Okay, and this other part the person pointed out was that, okay, when you get there and you're trying to change when you mentioned the free Wi-Fi, I was like, don't even mention free Wi-Fi, because I remember when we used to board the BRT vehicles when they were newly introduced in the city of Lagos, there was free Wi-Fi in those buses. But right now, I can't tell if we still enjoy that.
Well.
But in Ghana, that you want to change your currency, your foreign currency, to the local currency, which is the cedi, because since you're visiting the country, you need to spend that money. That unlike what you see in Nigeria, I'm sorry, we cannot demarket our country, you know.
Yes.
We're just making comparisons among African countries. So, when you meet some people who are coming to change dollar, they are calling your attention, immediately you get out and like, do you want to change your dollar and all of that, but that what you have over there in Ghana, you're being directed to
a specific office. And your transaction is smooth. If you want to do a transfer in your own currency, you can do that. They'll give you the number, they'll do everything, and they'll give you the cedi.
And there's a corporate environment created for that purpose, not street traders who will be calling and jostling for your attention.
Yes.
I think it brings, we know that the government of Nigeria is bringing sanity to the airport. However, it would be nice to point all this out. Well, great. So, corporate. One other thing I learned about is transportation, and this is in terms of port and the shipment. So, Niger Republic and some other African countries are a landlocked state with no access to the major seaports. And Nigeria being a contiguous state, Lagos port and other ports in the country, it serves as a destination for them to bring in their goods from Europe. So and they get to Nigeria from the ports in Nigeria. They are not directed or offloaded then by land taken into Niger Republic and to some other African countries. That when Nigerians are critical of their government, they tend to say, okay, our ports, we need the government has done a lot. However, there's still much to be done. And because the time for clearing our goods, we're spending 21 days in the port before you clear. In South Africa, we're told you can do that in less than 3 days. In Ghana, we're told you can do that less than a week. So if all these are some of the some of the bottlenecks that seem to be loosened up in Ghana and that will facilitate the economic transformation, open the economy up for the ease of doing business. It's something to be emulated. However, there's something I want to point out, because if you look at the population of Ghana, it's no match for Nigeria. And if you have a bigger population,
Lagos is almost bigger than Ghana.
Exactly. So you have a lot of things to deal with if you have a bigger population, because you are saddled with the responsibility of not only building institutions or building carrying out reforms that will go around 36 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, putting out reform laws for both the businesses and the private individuals, including the governments, to be regulated by, and for everyone to fall in order, in line, to bring about the economic and the business efficiency, and including the development that we all aspire to have. So could it be that the less population we have in Ghana has made it possible for the government there to do some of these things? Because their non-food inflation moved from like 22% recently to, from 18% rather to 17%. And their food inflation moved from like 22% to 21%. And we're asking what could be the reason for this? And he was mentioning the statistician general. That's the statistician general. If you go to the National Bureau of Statistics in Nigeria, I think the representation of the institution in Ghana was saying that it's because of the movement of goods, transportation, and the efficiency of their port system. I would like to see that replicated in Nigeria and some other African countries.
Well, I don't think it's population, because if you say population, I'll call China. I'll call US.
Okay.
What's their population compared to Nigeria? So I think it's just about management and just setting your eyes on the goal. I think Ghana, what they did, they set their eyes on the goal. Yes, Ghana has been relatively politically stable compared to other countries like South Africa, the apartheid time, Nigeria, from military to democratic. Ghana has fairly had some stable political, atmosphere.
Stable since 1999 to 2000, when we got into the Fourth Republic. When we got to the Fourth Republic, and we have maintained 26 years unbroken transition of political power to from civilian administration to another civilian administration. We've been quite stable.
I think one of the things also is the mindset. Something Dr. Idausa is always saying, the mindset of the people. So when I was in Ghana, now I stood by the road, I wanted to cross, and the vehicles actually stopped for me to cross.
All right.
I was shocked.
Was it zebra crossing?
No zebra crossing. I just stood. The Nigerian army wanted to wave the cars down, but they just stopped. I actually saw that before I did it. I saw a lady, a young lady, standing by the road, and the buses, commercial buses, stopped.
Actually stopped.
And and there's this atmosphere of not littering anything. It just comes to your head that yes, this place is very, very orderly. So I think it's the mindset of the people also.
You're still watching Just Africa. We're going to break. When we return, we'll have our guests join us on the program. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Many thanks for joining us on the program. Our focus is on the Gold Coast, Ghana. We're talking about recent moves by its currency, the cedi, and how it's performing in the continent of Africa in comparison to other currencies. Joining us on the program today to dissect the issues is Laila Mutajogera, Chief Executive Officer of Muta Investment, private equity specialist, and a respected voice in Africa's investor community. Good morning to you, Laila. Many thanks for joining us on the program on Just Africa.
Yes, good morning. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this time.
Great. It's good to have you here. And it will be good for me to also, is it okay to tell them that you're joining us from Uganda, having this conversation about the Ghanaian currency and the economy?
So you are right. I'm joining from Uganda. You can call it East Africa. Now we are one. But yes, thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. Now, first of all, I am surprised that Ghana cedi is performing very, very good. And I would like to ask, Nigeria is called the giant of Africa. When we look at Tunisia, when we look at Egypt, when we look at some like Morocco, because some of their currencies are quite doing well as well, I am tempted to wonder and ask, what exactly has Ghana done differently, or what exactly has Mr. John Mahama done differently to make the currency, to put the currency rather, on that pedestal?
Yes. So Ghana have understood one thing that other African countries that need to learn from. Ghana has understood that Africa doesn't need pity anymore. Africa doesn't need anyone to save us, and that's what they are doing. And mostly, what they have done differently is to understand that their country has values, and the only way to add value to their values is to produce from inside instead of exporting or exporting while you're also importing the same things 10 times. They have also tried to say, you know what, we are going to make sure we import the things that are ready instead of importing raw materials.
All right, thank you very much, Laila. So let's jump right to it. Can you take us through some of the reforms that Ghana has implemented that other African nations haven't? Can you let us know?
Yes, it's a good question. What Ghana has really done right now is quietly something that everyone in Africa should learn. There are other African countries which are doing well, but Ghana specifically, it has managed to say that we have our resources, we have gold. Instead of exporting as other people or other countries are doing to rely on the dollar, let's focus on getting our gold from our locals, produce it, but also process it, then we import it when it's ready. And the most important thing that they have done is initially to make sure that gold is buying. Instead of using their local currency, they're using gold to buy oil and other things to come in the country. So that's what has made really their currency come from here to up to another level, which is very interesting because it's really it's building the country, but also it's building their people, because right now the people are benefiting in job creation if everything can be done from the country and you don't need to export everything. Then I do believe there's a job opportunities for youth and young people in the country. Yeah.
All right. I think I learned that recently Ghana engaged in debt restructuring activity for about $10 billion. They actually met with some of their stakeholders and their creditors to have a debate or a conversation about restructuring. So in this sense, probably if they have been given a specific period of time to pay up the debt, probably at the moment, as a result of the restructuring negotiation, it must have been extended. Could you speak to some of the way they've handled their debt profiles or their debt with the International Monetary Fund that must have worked in their own advantage, you think other African countries can emulate?
I would say one thing as an entrepreneur, especially as an investor, the one thing that you should really, you need as an investor is to have a safe system. And one of the things that Ghana has managed to build is a system especially for investors who are coming from outside or within. And most importantly, what they have managed to do is to make sure their strategy that comes for everyone who is investing, they find a safe space. And it has really built the country, but also it has really built a safe space to do business in Ghana. I don't know if that's exactly what you wanted me to answer, but on that point, I do believe that the thing that they have done right is to build a safe space for business.
So equities, I know in the part of equity. Now, I want to make comparison. Recently, the Bureau de Change in Nigeria has been given a recapitalization task by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And for 3 times now, it has extended the date on which this bureau de change are going to recapitalize, and most of them cannot, meet the benchmark for recapitalization. So it kept on, the CBN kept on extending it, and it's running to about billions of naira. So one of the fears about investment was that if they attract foreign equity into the local market, there's the tendency that foreigners are going to end up owning the businesses someday. How do you think Ghana is performing in that space?
Ghana is performing on this space by, as I mentioned, as creating right strategies, and the right strategies gives the opportunity both to the locals but also both to the investors. And one of the systems that I've used, all the investors come in, they have limited. Percentage they have in equity, but also most importantly, there is also the employment. You don't just employ from people outside or come with your people. What most of the time that is happening is that if someone is an investor and they're bringing a business in the country, most of the time they come with their own people, which is taking now the job opportunities to our own local people. And what they have done right is to make sure they have built a standard, and the system says that if you're an investor, this is what you do, and this is the percentage you can't go far if you are investing as an equity, and this is the job or the number of people you can bring in the country. And I believe also Nigeria, it also needs to come out from fear. It needs to understand that no one is coming to save us, and the world has really showed us that Trump, what he said recently, other countries are suffering from because now they can't access their donors and also the help that they have been receiving. Now it's kind of scared, but for me, it's now a time to say enough is enough. We have enough. We should use it and create something and add value to it. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Laila. The Bank of Ghana has done some aggressive monetary policies, one of which is that it raised its interest rate several times, to attract, to combat inflation, of course, and attract investors back to the cedi. It also restructured domestic debt, reducing the pressure on the government to print, more money. Could you take us through how Ghana was able to achieve this?
Yes, I would say in perspective as a business person, not as a politician, but in one of the things that I've managed to do, I don't know if you can still hear me, but one of the things that I've managed to do is to create a system, as I mentioned. They have created a system to say that instead of really importing the gold from outside the countries, so people that can buy it, then process it, create maybe jewelries and all that, and come and sell it in the country 10 times. We should build refineries. We should process it our own gold, then we should use it against a dollar. We should use it to buy oil because they've been using gold to buy oil, and they have been using other things to gold to buy other things that are coming in the country. What has managed to do is to strengthen the cedi or their currency, and now it has become now a good news. It's they are doing really amazing, but I would say in a perspective of business, they have managed to show us that right strategies, a right system can create something wonderful, and that's what we need to learn as an African.
Also, when the interest rates were raised to combat inflation, did it have any positive or negative effect on the economy?
Please repeat that again.
When Ghana raised its inflation, I beg your pardon, when Ghana raised its interest rate to combat inflation, what was the effect on the economy? Was it negative or positive?
I do believe 100% it was a positive way. This is not about just the currency. This is about the value of the country, and this is the way the country stand on itself and say we are doing the right thing. When we talk about the currency, we are not just talking about money. We are talking about the people. We are talking about the leadership, because you can't increase, or you can't reach from where the currency is now on zero, then tomorrow is 20% increase, because there are system that has to be there, and Ghana has managed to build those system around it, and I do believe it's a positive thing, and that's one of the things we can learn from as African continent, as African ourselves, to stop really depending on others and also focusing on what we have, which actually, yes, Africa is among of the richest continent. It's surprising that we're among of the poorest, but we do have resources. And Ghana has shown us that with everything we have, with the right system that we can create and the right leadership, yes, we can build something, and that's really positive.
Okay, thank you. Now, as a private equity specialist, I want to know how the stability in currency, can fuel investors' appetite, to put their money in an economy. Because one thing about Nigeria, and I also believe also among Ugandan businessmen or African businessmen, if they see that in Ghana, in Uganda, or in Tanzania, or in Cote d'Ivoire, their currency is quite stable. They could be making business decisions to go into that terrain to invest. Recently, Tony Elumelu, went to Cote d'Ivoire to establish a subsidiary of his business empire, and that is going to bring much more business and economic development to Cote d'Ivoire. So do you think investors in Ghana and in Uganda are taking advantage of currency stability to put more into investment in these climes?
So the current stability really means the strong leadership, and that brings, as an investor, it brings the confidence in yourself to say, this is the right choice and this is where I should put my money. And I think what we should learn from this as an African is that yes, we need investors, but we have to give a reason why investors should invest in us by starting with us. We don't expect someone to come and invest 1 billion USD in our country while we're not also investing in ourselves. And that's what Ghana has really done. And also, as an African, if you are looking for an investor, create for them a space. It's not about the currency. It's create for them a space, and also make sure you show them the system, because the system is the most important thing. A lot of people, investors come and they're smart people. They understand that I rather go and buy the raw materials in Africa, take it to my home, produce it and make it better, then sell it 10 times the amount that they're buying it. And if African, as an African, if we can focus on our values and we welcome these investors, instead of buying from us in raw materials, we welcome them to come here and invest in what we have. It can be coffee, it can be cocoa, it can be gold or other things, but we do really have strong, I would say, the richest continent. We do have really a lot of materials here. Let's produce these materials. There we can produce a strong currency, and then we can produce a strong nation. I feel, I hope I have answered your question.
All right, thank you very much. Now, one of the successes Ghana has recorded is in digital finance. Of course, if you talk about mobile money, Ghana has made a lot of strides. How has this also affected the economy?
Yes, it's technology. They have understood that the world is moving so fast, and one of the things that means they're moving so fast is to be able to pay anywhere and anytime. And this has really built the currency, because not only the Ghanaians, but also the Ghanaians who are living from outside the countries, they can be able to send money and also receive money without waiting for days or the traditional ways that they have been doing. Yes, it has really been also the most important point, or where it has built a value from within the people in exchange of the money, but also it has reduced the use of the cash allowed moving around among the people, which is a good thing because it's building the people with the easiest and smooth ways to exchange cash, but also building their currency by adding the value to the currency.
Okay. Also, before I hand over to Priye, do you believe that the citizens of a nation, it is important for them to also have trust in their currency, that it also helps boost the power of their currency?
Yes, they should really 100% believe in their currency. A lot of African people, including East Africa, we have really focused on one thing, and one thing is the dollar. We've been thinking that the only way to make money is to exchange what we have in the dollar, which has really killed our currency, which has also killed us because we are not really thinking on what we have, or we are not thinking the long-term thinking, and that mindset really it's killing us. And I do believe if we start thinking how best we can make our currencies and also believing in our currencies, it's going to build our nation.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, we're talking about investment and all of that, but one of the things that Tony Elumelu, the former chief executive officer and president of the African Development Bank, that's Akinwumi Adesina, spoke about in one of the World Economic Forums in United Arab Emirates, was that if 1.4 billion Africans can trade together, then they will cut themselves off from being dependent on foreign manufactured products finding their way into the African markets, that is demarketing the manufactured products in Africa. So we're going to go on a break. When we come back from this break, we'll be talking about manufacturing, production in Africa. Do we have the infrastructure in place? What sort of investment does the government and private investors need to do to put the atmosphere and create an ecosystem for both local and foreign investors to have confidence in, to put in their money? And those are what we'll be looking at when we come back from this break. Ms. Laila, do stay on the line. We'll be back in a moment. It's Just Africa.
Hello Nigeria, hello Africa. Yeah, this is Sound Man. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Babalola from Excel LED. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Bogaballs, and please keep watching Souq News.
Wale Seriki, SLG Lagos Island East, Souq News, keep out watching them and keep a lookout for them. They're up and coming, and we're proudly to be affiliated with them.
You alone where they make me go crazy. This your love in the cool of my brain. You're my medicine, I need you all day. Yo, it's Blackface Nigeria, and you're watching Souq News TV. Keep it locked on this dial, don't change it. You know what I say? Blackface Nigeria, love no bad.
Good morning to you once again, and welcome to the program. We are reaching you live from the city and the center of excellence, the commercial city of Lagos, Nigeria. I am Oyinpreye Krumale once again. Our conversation is centered around the strengthening and the Ghanaian city, how it's been performing recently when we look at the African economy. And our conversation this morning has been with Laila Mutajogera. I hope I got that right. She is a private equity specialist an investment specialist, and also someone who is a business strategist. Good morning to you once again, Laila. Many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Very much welcome. Now, I know you're familiar with the African Continental Free Trade Area, and this was supposed to facilitate trade among African countries, from Nigeria to Ghana to Niger Republic, Cote d'Ivoire, coming to East Africa, in Uganda, then to Kenya, or to North Africa, Morocco, Egypt, Tunisia, and all of that. And if Africa sail on the ship, on that trade and economic ship of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, it has been said that our income is going to skyrocket. And as we speak, the economic disadvantages that is bedeviling the continent would seem to fade away. Do you share that perspective?
Yes, I do share that perspective because Africa, they need to change their mindset when it comes to other African countries. Ourselves, if we can't trust ourselves, why do we expect someone else to come and trust us? Among us, as East African community, one of the initiative that their first initiative why they formed East African, it was the exchange of goods and also exchange of the market. But still, when you look at African or East Africa, you find themselves again, they are still looking for, instead of exchanging the goods, they're still looking at everything as partition. They're still thinking about why we should not exchange the goods instead of why we should exchange the goods. Yes, I do believe if Africa should really, and Africans start trusting what we have and also trusting each other in order to really to build a strong nation or a strong continent.
Yes. So if I want to come invest in Uganda, if I perchance come to Ghana and I want to take a flight to Uganda, and I'm coming to invest in Uganda, because when you come to Nigeria at the moment now, what you're looking at startups. For startups are doing optimally very well, most especially in the commercial city of Lagos. When you go to Accra, we are told about the transportation. We are told about like the gold and how it is strengthened. The price of it keeps skyrocketing in the capital, in the foreign exchange, and in the international market. So if I come to Uganda as a Nigerian and I want to invest there, what are those areas that I should be looking at?
Yeah, it's really a good question. One of the best areas I would say, yes, right now we really need a lot of real estate. And when we talk about real estate, it's a really big thing. But most of the time, I will speak about industrial real estate, and also where we can also build our industries, because we do have a lot of. I really do have raw materials that need to process. As I mentioned, one of the issue that we are having as South Africa is to import or export the raw materials. Instead of, if you're coming as an investor, I would advise you to first do your research. But the most of important thing, if you're coming in industrial, there are a lot of things that you can come and do. There is a lot of opportunity. If you're coming in real estate, in middle class, there is a need of really houses. So if you are coming in real houses, I will advise you to come in commercial real estate, because there is massive opportunity there.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to ask this question. How crucial is regional cooperation and integration, like the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, in strengthening the currency and, of course, economic stability?
It's really a good question. Let's be honest. We've been doing it for some quite time, and the data has showed us it's not working. And if we can really trust, as you mentioned, if we can trust ourselves and also exchanging our goods from inside, it doesn't really not only strengthen the currency, but also it's adding the value to Africa. African people and our continent. And if I believe one of the things we should really focus on right now is to trust in ourselves, but also most importantly to trust that we do have enough, and also we can use it inside, and also we exchange it as among ourselves before we think of other countries or other continent. And I hope we can change the mindset on that.
Okay, so if we look at Uganda to Ghana or to Kenya or coming down to Nigeria, so one of the things that we can talk about is that Africans have raw materials, but they lack the technology to develop this raw material. So we keep exporting these raw materials to Europe. And like you have rightly pointed out, you said when the advanced countries come to Africa, they go with the raw materials, they add value to it, then they sell it 10 times more to Africans. That means there are no factories in Africa at the moment, or probably there are factories, but there are not enough factories. How can Africans, including Ghanaians, come together to make sure that we situate these strategic factories? What if the raw materials in Uganda is needed in Nigeria? We have factories here, but you have the raw materials. So if there's an exchange between Uganda and Nigeria, it will be both beneficial, and the money will stay within the continent. Same thing goes to South Africa and to Ghana. Do you think the leadership across African countries have the political will or the strength to initiate such a reform?
When it comes to political wills, I've seen what Africa misses is to change, as I mentioned, the mindset, to start stopping thinking about me, and start thinking about as a business. Even if it's a business, if you are running a business, the one rule that we get is not to just give everything you have for cheap. But Africa is doing that, and it's doing that not even inside Africa, but they are giving access to outside people, outside continent people, to come and access our goods on very low cheap, and take it the other side. As I mentioned, they bring it here, and we're 10xing it on the because they have just added the value. I do believe if Africans we see us as a nation, but also a strong nation, and we start thinking about how best we can add value to what we have, because we have the best thing that anyone wish to have, and that's why you see a lot of in between. In the politics, there is always fights among why they should control Africa. But I do believe one of the most thing that African people needs and African countries needs is to start trusting ourselves, and also to start trusting that there is more that we can do. Even our own people start believing that we can start something and we can finish it. I do believe also, as a young generation, our youth need to change the mindset. And how they can change the mindset, and how they can really add value on what we have. Right now, we do need a lot of infrastructures. We do need a lot of industrials. We do need to start processing everything inside our countries, and also before we think of who we can exchange it with, we should think our neighbors, not thinking about the China, not thinking about Europe or other continent. Ourselves among ourselves. If we can't love ourselves, and we shouldn't really expect someone else to love us. And it will be a game changer if we really focus on adding value to our continent.
All right, Laila, in rounding up, if you were to give advice to African finance ministers, what would be your top 3 recommendations in building a stronger economy?
I would tell them to build the strong strategies. If it's a business, I do believe if it's a business or as a leader, you need to build strategy among whatever you are doing. And secondly, they should really stop being selfish. I would say it again and again. If you are sitting on the table and you believe that you have sitting there for the leadership of your people, you should think about the leadership of the people and how best can you add the value to your people. And the third, I would say, they should think beyond today. They should think about the future. In long term, their generations, their grandkids, and that's how you start really build Africa. You have to start thinking long-term game instead of short-term game, and that's what the leadership is doing in Africa. They are thinking about now, and they are thinking about themselves, and that's why we are stuck here. And we are really have seen it that those systems that have been they're not working.
Right. Thank you so much, Laila Mutajogera. I hope I got your name right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time with us on Just Africa today, making your time available from Uganda, reaching us over here in Nigeria. She is a private equity specialist and investment strategist, and also a business strategist. Thank you so much for your time with us this morning on the program.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. This was a beautiful conversation. Thank you.
And we look forward to having it with you again next time.
Please, I'm always here.
Great. So, Olumide, I was asking that question because you mentioned Ghana, and recently we talked about Nigeria, how our government is trying to resuscitate and revive the cocoa industry by assisting farmers, giving them credit if there's need for that, making sure that that business terrain is attractive enough for investors to come put in their money. And that equally made the vice president to make a promise that he was going to start a cocoa farm by himself now, because he wants to make sure that he is individually responsible and that he's participating in
lead
that.
By example.
He wants to lead by example in that. But the thing is, do we have factories? Do we have the manufacturing technology to add value by the time we start trading out tons? By the time, because currently we are doing between 200,000 and 350,000 metric tons of cocoa in Nigeria. Cote d'Ivoire is doing about 700,000 metric tons. So, but if you said that Ghana is turning cocoa to chocolate, that it's obvious that they have the technology and they have factories, and investors have pumped money into that space to bring hard value to it, to transform it from raw cocoa to chocolate, and to also find other industrial use for it. But if we don't have many of this spread across Africa, we still go back to where we are coming from, exporting our raw materials, buying finished goods, and depleting our economic strength.
It's I think one of the things Ghana did well, and we must study, is how they were able to build investor confidence. Because we need that in Nigeria. We need to build investor confidence. We need to create an environment that investors believe that, because let's not kid ourselves, multinationals have left. That's a depletion in confidence in the economy. So how do we now build local investor confidence for them to be able to say, okay, I want to go into cocoa. I want to invest. I want to invest into steel. Ajaokuta is still there. Even oil, crude oil, I want to invest into this. Fine, we've seen Dangote. Dangote so far has been successful. So I think that might also boost investor confidence, those who want to go into crude oil, and all that. So we need to work on that. And one of the 3 recommendations she made, the 2 of them I like, is leadership. If you are sitting on a table and you know you are a leader, you should think about your people. And she also said, whatever you are doing, think long term. So whatever policies Nigeria or any other country is making, let's think long term. I mean, yes, I remember when President Tinubu came out with the 50,000 to cushion the fuel subsidy removal, and people protested that this is just short term. So we need, whatever policy we are thinking of, it has to be long term, that even if this current administration is not there, this policy, there's a continuum, it works. So the Buy Nigeria first is a good long-term policy. It will actually help us. Just like Laila said, they decided to produce, not just to export their materials, produce it locally. So that, and one of the smarter things I think they did was that gold for oil.
Gold for oil.
It's a brilliant.
How brilliant is it? Because if you come to look at it,
yes.
If you're talking about gold for oil, and you look at the costs of gold, even in the international market,
yes.
you see that
gold appreciates.
It appreciates, and it's high up there.
Yes.
And if it is the raw materials for Ghana, then it looks as if using that for gold, for oil, don't you think they are even shortchanging themselves?
No, they are not, because they are not just exchanging it, they are also mining it. They are mining it, they are making gold trinkets and all that out of it. So, and they understand the value of gold. If you understand the value of what you have, it's different from if you don't understand the value. Yes, people will come and rob you of your own resources, but when you understand the value of what you have, you can negotiate better. If I have gold and you have dollar, and I understand the value of what gold is, I will negotiate better than if I'm using my currency with your own dollar. You might be of the advantage if I do not negotiate well. So it's all about recognizing. They recognize what they have, and they were able to use it. Although I would have also loved to know how inflation rate affected the economy, because the inflation rate in Nigeria is about 37, and people are actually, complaining about that.
I think Ghana it's around 28.
28.
Because their CPI and their consumer perception index.
They also had IMF bailout, about $3 billion, but I think they were able, the discipline was there. They had this high sense of discipline to put that money into where it's supposed to go. I think that's one of the things we also... So, yes, while we always frown at collecting loans, collecting grants from IMF, but they also did, I think around 2022, there was a depletion in their currency. But, with the bailout and every other thing, it came up. So, yes, they sought for loans, grants, but they were...
They got a bailout.
Yes, but they were able to use it prudently. Yes.
Olusegun Obasanjo's administration from 1999 to 2007 through some of the best brains that he had in his cabinet, talking about Mr. Malam Nuhu Ribadu working as the EFCC chair, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the former governor of Kaduna State, El Rufai, Nenadi Usman, and other Charles Chukwuma Soludo. And those are best brains that work with from the Fourth Republic, 1999 to 2007, Obasanjo's government, and they were able to secure that for it. So that administration did excellently in that part. So subsequent administration that came after him didn't manage that process very well. And now our foreign reserve is depleted to less than $40 billion and still going down. So we can say maybe we didn't do that, manage it properly. The one thing that I will always look at is, whilst Africa is advocating for all countries in Africa to trade together. There must be this intention, the effort to make sure that they build the infrastructure, the manufacturing hubs, the factories. We should have factories here that should be able to process a raw material that is found somewhere in Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire should have factories that can produce to an extent the abundant raw materials within their country, but also to meet some industrial needs in Uganda. Then Kenya should be able to do something. Because if we do not do this, the technology is still out there, outside the shores of Africa, and we can't but trade with other countries.
I like what you said, be able to also produce it here, because Dr. Dauso has also said it that, while he feels that the AFCTA might not work, is because countries are producing almost the same thing. But if we are producing what we consume here, we can first sell it here, then also export it out.
Okay, it's time for us to draw the curtain on the program. My name is Oyinpreye Krumale. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms at Souq News Television. Many thanks for watching. And coming up after this is Uniqueness of Africa.
It's been a pleasure. Let's do this again next week. I am Olumide Sokoya. Enjoy your day.